Welcome to
House of Whimsical Terror.
I'm Esther.
I'm Mary.
And we're speaking to you from Tucson, Arizona.
And we're telling real stories of the fantastical.
All of our stories are true or told to us as true.
Occasionally we do alter the names to protect privacy.
And places for the same reason.
That's right. And tonight is Halloween.
It is. Happy Samhain.
Happy Halloween.
We are honoring trick-or-treating by actually answering the door during the podcast, but we'll pause so you don't have to hear all that madness.
That's right. Well, maybe. Maybe we won't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You'll probably hear little voices say, trick-or-treat.
Classically unedited podcasts.
True. Unfiltered and unedited.
That's us.
Yeah.
It is. Today's story is They Lived Here Before.
Yeah.
Which is your story, Esther?
It is my story of my house, or stories.
Yeah. I
moved in here, about 13 years ago to this house. It's not terribly old. It was built in 1938, I think. And when we first moved in, we were in the very back room, and I had two dogs at the time. My cattle dog, who is, the dog love of my life, and Fiona, who was a greyhound. Mm-hmm. And we were in the very back of the house, and suddenly the two dogs sat up and then stood up and looked with intention. My cattle dog's ears were way up, and I didn't see or hear anything. I don't know. I got up and looked around to figure out what they were looking at, and there was nothing. There was nothing. Now, those of you who know my cattle dog, he was at my side all the time when we were together. He never left any farther than maybe 2 feet away. And he was always laying on the ground right next to me. It's just, cattle dogs really imprint on their human, that one human. I wanted to live in the front bedroom, and it's the older part of the house. The newer part of the house is really lovely, and it looks like a nice extension. It doesn't look like a creepy add-on. It's really beautiful as well. But the front part of the house is just kind of your classic old adobe. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be in that front room. The dogs would not go in there and sleep. And these are dogs that slept with us in all sorts of houses. I was at my grandma's for a while, and they were always just like I said, my cattle dog 2 feet away. Yeah. That little house over on President near Ajo and 12th. They were just always nearby. Mm-hmm. They would not go in that room. Even when I would force them in, they would. My cattle dog was well behaved, so he would do what he was told, but he didn't like it. He would sit as close to the door as possible.
They're so sensitive.
Yeah.
Animals.
They are. Yeah. So
that should have been a clue, because that's when you first moved in, right?
Yeah. So Julie and I were sitting in the back in we turned it into the family room. And so we were watching television back there, and we had been here maybe 3 days, still moving in, but mostly, all the big stuff was ready to go. And we heard a man walking across what sounded like it was the kitchen. And we both stood up and thought, what is going on? Who is walking in the house? And we had locked everything because we're, new here, new neighborhood. Right. But people have keys to our house like you do, and my sister does, and my brother. Mm-hmm. And so we knew that people had a key, but they normally call us first and say, hey, I'm coming over to help you move in or whatever. So we stood up, we're like, hello, who is it? No one answered. So we got up and walked into the kitchen and then into the front of the house. There's no one there. Doors and windows are all locked. Just someone walking through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Other things that happened in the house. My brother stayed here once for a little while, and he was sleeping in that front room. I had moved out of that front room and into one of the rooms in the back. And he said that this, and my brother is a skeptic. He's not someone like us who loves ghost stories. But he said the weirdest thing happened. He said, I was taking a nap. It was a Saturday afternoon. He was just napping, and he had made my dog get up like on the bed and, just relax and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And my dog trusted him. So, he was just laying there and they're both sound asleep. And he suddenly said he heard like a man's voice in the room. And so he's like on high alert, wakes up, turns around, and my dog was barking at whatever, that place where he had heard the voice. My dog was barking inside at that, not like out the window or like right there where my brother had heard the man's voice come from.
And he's not really the kind of man that is susceptible to such things.
No. He's very, very serious. And yeah. I mean, he's fun and funny, but yeah, that one thing was kind of weird.
That's pretty.
And that's that same room that the dog never wanted to go in. Mm-hmm. There's a bathroom right across the hall from that room. And this one day I was in the house by myself and I was, getting ready, looking in the mirror, and I looked up and there was a young man standing in the doorway. Mm-hmm. And he had his arm his elbow up on the doorway and was kind of looking toward me, almost like he knew me. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing is I'm just saying this so calmly, because I was calm. It didn't scare me that there was a young man standing in the, young man
in your house,
like late 20s, early 30s, standing right there. And then I realized after I kind of looked up to see what he wanted or what he was going to say, because it looked like he was about to tell me something. Nothing important, just something. And then I realized there's not supposed to be someone in my bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And I turned around and he was gone.
Huh. You've never told me that story, and I've spent quite a lot of time at your house.
Oh, yeah. Because it didn't scare me. It was just weird. He was no one I'd ever seen before. He was tall, maybe 6'1", had kind of auburn hair. I think it was back in a ponytail. And for some reason, he didn't frighten me.
Just for the, just so he knows, when I'm here, I'm good with not seeing him. Yes, I am. I'm really good with that. Like, just talk to Walter.
Do not frighten Mary.
And that's so easy to do. And yet I keep coming back for more.
You're so great.
Yeah.
I love you. So
now that you've like seen this figure in your home, have you seen him again?
No, it was just that one time. But there was a weird thing, like I had never seen him before. His face was not familiar. But it felt like he was supposed to be there. Like I wasn't, like he was just there. I don't know how to describe it. I was not afraid. I was not startled by him. I mean, I would even be startled by someone that, that I know really well and trust, suddenly appearing in the doorway.
Yeah.
There was something about him that I didn't even flinch. I just, looked at him and
you're able to share space.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
So other things that happened, we have a friend who cleans houses, and every once in a while she says, hey, I need some extra cash. Can I come over and, do some cleaning? So we always say yes.
Like, who would say no to that?
I know, please come over. So she did, and she would do that, every once, I don't know, maybe 3-4 times a year. And this one day, she was in the kitchen. I think it was before one of your birthdays that we had.
One of my many birthdays.
Yeah. And so I thought, oh gosh, we really need a clean house. So, and I'm not the best at cleaning, so we'll ask Jeanette to come over and clean. So she was in the kitchen and I came over. Oh no, I remember what it was. Okay, here's what it was. We have friends who are paranormal investigators. Yeah. And they wanted to go to your house and do a paranormal investigation about Walter.
Right.
And you said, no, I'm not ready for that to happen. Right. and you can, go to Esther's house, and I'll call her and let her know you're coming.
Yeah, I did. I just volunteered your home with the paranormal investigators.
That's what it was.
I did.
Oh, forgot about that. So the paranormal investigators, of course, are putting cameras everywhere and little voice recorders everywhere. And I thought, my house needs to be clean because there's going to be people in it. Mm-hmm. So she was in the kitchen, and I went in, and I was just kind of shooting the bull with her. And I said, oh, yeah, and the paranormal investigators are coming. My friend Mary's having them come over here. And she goes, drops everything in her hands. And she turns around and she looks at me like angry. And she goes, you didn't tell me your house was haunted. Oh. And I was like, well, I don't know if it is. Like, some things have happened, but I don't know. And she said, you should have told me. She was really, really mad. Oh. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. And she said, things have happened to me here. Oh. That's why I always want to come over when you're also here. And I said, I'm so sorry. But can you tell me what happened? Because I'm a horrible person. I'm like, so sorry that happened. But tell me all the details. Anyway. Yeah. So she says, well, I was here one day with my sister, and we were trying to get everything done really quickly. And she has a little boy who at the time was about 2 or 3, and he was a real wild child. I love him. He's just the cutest little kid. And he was not a kid that would stand still ever unless he was asleep. Just, wild child in the most fabulous way. And we had a friend who was staying here with her gorgeous German Shepherd. She is a dog trainer. She's from France, and she teaches her dogs in French, all the commands. This particular dog, her name was Rachel, gorgeous, gorgeous baby. She would go on hunts for like rescuing, child rescues and things, and sniff out, people who had been lost. I mean, she was a well-known rescue dog. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She was so great that you could open the front door and tell her to stay in French, and then leave for, 3 hours, and she would still be standing in the doorway when you got back. That's how good this dog was. There was one point where our friend told her dog not to go past the kitchen, and she wouldn't, even when I called her. She would when I went over, and I finally took her by the collar to come over and play with the other dogs, because she was sad, and you could see her looking like, can I come play? Right. Beautiful shepherd. So this one day, our friend was coming over to clean, and I told our other friend, our roommate, to keep her dog in the room. Now, she was staying in the room that I was talking about, where my dog wouldn't go, and where my brother was sleeping, and my dog was barking. So it's that front room, which is actually my favorite room in the house. And so she locked Rachel, the beautiful shepherd, in that room while she was gone to work, so that our other friend could do all the cleaning. So our friend said, my sister started yelling for me, because her sister was helping her clean that day. And she ran up to the front, and her hands were like full of like oil, like furniture oil. Uh-huh. And her sister was also like cleaning, but they're both terribly afraid of dogs. I forgot to tell you this part. Terribly afraid of dogs. And the baby, well, a 3-year-old, was standing in the area where the door to that room is. There's a bathroom across the hall, and there's another room. It's like a little circular hallway that's right there. And he was staring up at the top of the door of that room, my favorite room, the old room.
The scary, spooky, haunted room?
The scary, spooky, haunted room.
Right.
And Jeanette, the cleaner, was saying that that the dog was like scratching the door and like barking and growling right like 2 feet from where the little boy was, but the door was the only thing in between them. Uh-huh. And her sister was saying, get the baby, get the baby. So finally, she just, even though her hands were full of oil, she went over and got him. And she said, I couldn't pull him away. He wouldn't move. He was just staring at the top of the door. And she said, Esther, was that dog going to eat my baby? And I said, no. I said, she's a rescue dog, a trained dog.
She's professional.
I said, you said he was looking at the top of the door. And she said, yes. I said, you told me that the dog was scrambling and growling at the bottom of the door. And she said, I didn't think about that. He was looking up. He wasn't looking down where the dog was growling. I said, she's a rescue dog. She's probably trying to get to your kid for a reason. Of course, that was the wrong thing to say because now she never wants to come back. But that was one of the things that happened. Another thing that happened on a different day, she was here by herself, and she has one of those vacuum cleaners that you wear on your back, kind of like a leaf blower, but it's a vacuum cleaner, and a very long extension cord. And so she uses it all over the house. It's pretty cool. And she said she was vacuuming in this front, where we're sitting right now, in the living room. She's vacuuming up here. And she said she heard what she thought was Julie's voice say, we're here. And she's like, oh, she was in a hurry. And she's like, she can come up here and talk to me because I'm not going to the back of the house. So she turned off her vacuum cleaner. She goes, I'm up in the front, and then turned it back on and kept going. And then she heard it again. We're here. She's like, oh, that's so aggravating. So she picked up the cord that was, the extension cord that was all the way in the very back room. So someone would have to see it, and she kind of flicked it like a snake, so someone would see it and follow it or something. She was just in a hurry and really aggravated. And so she just kept, going. Then she figured, okay, well, I guess she heard me. And then she moved farther into the front of the house, farther away from the back of the house, and she heard it again. We're here. But this one time it sounded more insistent, like we're here, like come and acknowledge us or something. And she's like, that's ridiculous. So she turned it off, stomped into the other room, and there's no one there. The doors are locked. And no one is in any part of the house, just her. So when I told her that we had the paranormal investigators, she was not happy.
Yeah, she hasn't been back?
She actually has. But one of us is always here.
Wow. Well, I find it amazing that she is having all these experiences, and then she hasn't told you these things.
No. Until
you told her you were having paranormal. And she's asking you, you didn't tell me, saying you didn't tell me your house was haunted. And I'm thinking, well, she knew your house was haunted, apparently.
Right.
But she didn't want to know. It's just that information that you have where you're like, I don't even want to know that.
Exactly.
That sounds like the experience she was having.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the paranormal investigators are coming, and she's done her beautiful job of cleaning the house. Because you know me, I'm not so good at it. I do it. I'm just not the best. So
unfiltered and honest podcasting.
Yeah. So our friends who are actually going to be guests, Deb and Rebecca, are going to be guests on our podcast later. And they also did some investigating about Walter.
Yes.
And they came here. So they actually came twice, and this is the first time they came. They had, again, we have this weird little basement. Like you can stand up in it and walk around, but it's not finished. It's just got a dirt floor. They put stuff down there. They put things in every part of the room, but part of the house.
They have all the paranormal investigator equipment.
Yeah. And the weird thing about the house, so it's an old adobe, and the walls are super thick. Would you say in some places about almost a foot and a half?
At least a foot and a half.
Like in the that area between the kitchen and
for those of our listeners that aren't familiar with adobe, it's mud bricks. It's mud mixed with straw that's dried and baked in the sun, and homes were built out of it all over. This area
exactly, and plastered over. That's about
and then plastered over
foot and a half, that archway.
Oh yeah. There are at least a foot and a half, possibly 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean, we get really terrible cell phone reception here too. So in the back of the house, you can't hear if someone is talking in the front of the house.
Right.
You can't hear in the back, and vice versa. You just there's so much wall in between that it's hard to It's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear. We're here.
We're here.
Yeah.
So they had these little, things everywhere. And actually, that's for the second story. I shouldn't have told that first. But the first time they were here, we had sent the dogs off to my brother and sister-in-law's, and we had just people here. And nothing much happened. We heard the voice box was going. For those of you who don't know what a voice box is, it kind of tunes into like radio frequencies that are, not being used. And sometimes words come through. Do I have that right?
Yes.
So they had those, and we were in the front part of the house in the living room where we are now. We were all kind of sitting around on the floor and on the couches, and we had the ghost box going, and my sister-in-law asked, what was the original color of this room? And then we all were quiet. And the voice box, a woman's voice says, white. Like no other words in between. Just white.
And you distinctly heard white.
Yes. Oh, we all did. Like it was clearly a woman saying white. And then nothing else happens but static. And a few seconds later, a man's voice comes through and says green. Whoa. So they were talking, I think, about what color the room was originally when they were here. But there were colors that came through, not, any other words, just colors, white and then green.
Wow. And you'll note I was not here for any of that. But no, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. The other weird thing that happened back in the newer part of the house, there's a dining room it's a really beautiful dining room. It has, like wood beamed ceilings, and it has a, what do you call it, travertine floor. It's really lovely, but it is newer than this part of the house.
But it blends right into it. Like you wouldn't know that.
Yeah. They had, they put the voice box in the middle of that. So we were all kind of sitting around on the floor. And they were asking me questions. I don't remember, but my niece and Rebecca were closest to it. And I can't remember what they asked, but they asked something. And the word that came around was Bella. And that's what my niece Isabella goes by, Bella.
Oh.
And we all like gasped, and everyone looked at each other. And then Rebecca asked another question, and it said clearly Rebecca. And they were the two that were right over it asking it questions.
I'd be like, okay, that's enough. Let's pack all this up now.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
I think those were the two only things. Not a whole lot happened. And the main investigator, I can't remember the young man's name, but he said, you said that things happened with the dogs. And I said, they did. And he said, do you think we could come back and do a second investigation with the dogs here? And I said, sure, why not? So they planned it, I don't know how long, maybe 6 months later. And this time we had the dogs here. But they do this thing in the very beginning. They set out all the cameras and all of the voice recorders. Oh, we have trick-or-treaters.
Oh, we sure do.
Yay!
Well, just a moment. And we're back.
So, at the beginning of every investigation, they make everybody leave. So, there are no pets, there are no people, there's nothing. Everything's shut down, cameras are on, voice recorders are on, and going for the first hour. So, he told us, leave the house, come back, go wherever, go have coffee. So, I was with my sister-in-law, and we had the dog. So I said, let's walk over to the coffee shop over on Speedway. So we did. We walked over there, and we got there, and all the paranormal investigators were there too. So we were all in the same place at the same time, and we had coffee. And then in an hour, we all went back. So there's no one here at all. And so we came back, and not much happened. There were some orbs in the kitchen, and a lot of people know this. I do not like cooking in my kitchen. I love to cook.
Yeah.
I've cooked in little tiny spaces. I've cooked in my dorm room. I've cooked everywhere, and they weren't great kitchens. But my kitchen, I don't like to cook in there. True. I'm not happy in there at all. And I don't know whose kitchen it is, but I think they don't like me in there
cooking in it.
Yeah. So that's the only other thing is I'm not comfortable in the kitchen. And that investigation caught a whole bunch of weird little orbs. I don't know what they finally found out about that. My sister-in-law thought there was activity in there. And, kitchens are places where a lot of things happen. People congregate and visit and tell, good news and bad news. Yeah. And so who knows what that was. But the weirdest thing that happened, I heard from Rebecca about 3 months later, and they always give you a report. And I hadn't gotten the report yet. And Rebecca called me and she said, Esther, I don't think you've gotten the report back yet because we're still working on it, but I wanted you to hear this. And I said, okay. She said, now this voice anomaly was captured on both the voice recorder that was in the living room, which is where Mary and I are sitting now.
Right.
And in one of the very back bedrooms. So they're on opposite ends of the house. And as I said, you can't hear from one end to the other. And we have more trick-or-treaters.
Oh, so the suspense is going to kill me.
Yes, but it's important.
Yes, it is. And, we like our audience to feel like they're right here with us. So we're going to pause a moment while we hand out candy. And we're back.
There was a cute little chef and a little teddy bear that ears moved.
Trick-or-treaters.
I love trick-or-treaters.
I do too.
So back to the scary.
Okay.
So the front of the house, again, where Mary and I are sitting, if you're in the very back of the house, you cannot hear what's happening in one or the other. You can't hear people talking up here. You can't hear people talking in the back. So Rebecca said about 15 minutes after we left, like I told you, we all left for an hour, took the dogs, took everybody with us. There were no children present. There were no children living in the casitas next door. Those were elderly living. And the house next to us, also no children. There was just an older gentleman who lived there. And she said, both voice recorders, both the one in the living room and the one in the very back bedroom, picked up the same voice. It's a child's voice, and I want you to listen to it. So I did, and it's a little boy's voice that says, I want to go.
I've heard that. It's creepy.
I was wondering if when we have Rebecca on, if she can pull up that voice.
Oh, we will ask her.
Yeah, let's ask her about that.
Creepy children.
Eek. Why are children so creepy?
I don't know.
I mean, not in real life.
No.
But the ghost ones,
children.
The ghost ones are the scariest.
Right?
Yeah. We love children, by the way.
Yes, we do.
We're not.
Well, trick-or-treaters. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard that recording, and it's eerie. And made more eerie because of there are no children.
Yeah,
and there was no one here.
We had all left with the dogs. 15 minutes after that, I want to go. Like
just like
whatever
that.
It was, I wanted to go with us. And why was it picked up in both? Like no matter.
I didn't realize it was picked up in both areas.
There's no way that it would have. I may be in one if someone. I mean, all the windows were closed. But it was clear, like someone sitting right here next to you. It was that clear.
Well, he apparently wanted to go with you to the coffee house.
Yes, with the doggies.
And with the doggies. Oof. Well, we definitely will ask Rebecca if she can bring that clip with her.
Yeah. That would be great. I think that's all in this house. Not a whole lot, but just some little weird things that have happened that we wanted to share with folks.
Yeah. And certainly. Your house makes creepy noises. I do know that.
It does. And they did get up and check that. There was nothing. I mean, it was probably the house settling, but it settles really loudly, like reindeer
and decades
landing on the roof.
Later, and I mean, my house is, never does that. It never does that. And I have a peaked roof and it doesn't do that. True. So just, I was doing some work at your house, the wall treatment for your entryway, so it can look like a creepy church. And and I could hear it all the way, like it was just
it's very loud.
It's super loud.
It's like a crackling noise.
Yeah, so it's so loud that you can, like that, if you can't hear anything from the back of this house to the front of the house, but you can hear the house.
Oh, that just creeped me out. That just gave me the shivers.
And I'm leaving now.
And here we are. We are on All Hallows Eve, where the veil is thin, and you're going to be leaving. I'm going to be terrified.
Sorry. No, but all right. So just for our audience members, Esther's roof makes really weird sounds, but only in certain parts of the house.
True.
And she's had people here trying to debunk what is that? What is that sound?
And no one really,
no one knows what it is, because it's just a weird, it sounds like the roof is cracking.
Yeah. The back door opened yesterday by itself.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm just still trying to figure out what that was, but yeah, it did.
Oh.
It's
that time of year.
Yeah, it is.
It's the spooky season.
Yeah. I am hearing more little like crackling and, sounds of things moving around the kitchen a lot. And I'm not the only one. Other people have go, what was that in the kitchen?
Right.
Just this year, in the last 3 days.
You may not want to have Jeanette over.
No.
She may never come back.
I want her to come back.
Yeah.
She's great. She's a good friend.
Yeah. So I think that, the house, it has a lot to say.
It does. They want us to know they lived here.
Yeah.
Or they still live here. Whoever's in the kitchen. She does not like me.
When that perhaps will be.
Never measure anything that I cook.
Yeah. Maybe that's why. But that might be some future stories.
True.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, again, happy Samhain, happy Halloween.
Yeah.
We love you so much.
That you enjoyed the evening with us.
We did not want Halloween to pass without
another podcast. And here comes some trick-or-treaters.